Well, it felt wonderful. I was a little surprised because, after all, when you do a first performance, I think we are all in the state of shock, so to speak, and you just don't know how anything is coming off. But the atmosphere of the whole thing is very exciting. They said that it was a very unusual opening night for the San Francisco Opera, and I think the reviews were wonderful. We got even better reviews later on, too, with the second performance, and we also got a review for the third performance. Demanding, it is in a way, because once the curtain goes up in the first act, Medea doesn't appear until the middle of it. She starts and she doesn't get off the stage until it's over with. So she's on the stage and she's constantly singing. So it is a demanding role. And I always said it was just hard on my feet while I was standing doing it. But this is a very peculiar role because she has such mixed emotions. I always say she runs very hot and cold. Every once in a while she gets very sentimental. When she thinks of her children, she sings softly and very sweetly, and then she thinks of her husband and she gets very angry, and so therefore it's a constant change from very soft pianissimo to more of an excited forte than singing loud. It's emotionally different all the time, constantly different. Well, it was brought to my attention by the American Opera Society, and they wanted to know would I be interested in doing it, and they gave me the music, which at that time was not available in this country. I looked at it and I thought, well, sure, I'd be fine. And then I started learning it, and then the more I got into it, the more exciting it became. And truthfully, I didn't think that it would become as important to my career as it has been. But it proved to be really the most important thing so far that I've done. Oh, yes, it's altogether different. Maria's role is very, well, she's a different character. She's a very hard person. And Medea is, well, come to think of it, I don't know. And it's not too different. It really isn't, because the music is different. Characters may not be so different, but the music, of course, Cherubini's music is more romantic than Berg's. Now that's a good question. There's always something different that you will do. You don't always feel the same when you sing it. Now, my second performance in San Francisco, that particular day, I just didn't feel like singing. There are days when you don't feel like singing. Therefore, you just have to bring yourself up to a pitch. And it was one of these days, well, I would love to stay home, but I had to go out and work. So I just had to build myself up to this pitch. And the reviews that we got, they said it was better than the opening night, you see. So you never know. And then when we did it the third time out in, we did it in Berkeley in the open air theater, Greek theater over there. Well, that was an altogether different production, too. You feel differently. Your fellow artists feel differently. Sometimes you do one little thing that you haven't done the last time. It's always different. No matter how many times you've done it, it's always different. Well, as far as I am concerned personally in learning a role, first of all, before I get into the music, I thoroughly go through the story, the translation. This is very important. Then you start working with the music. Now, personally, I'm not one of these people that can sit down with a score in front of me and memorize it. I don't work this way. I have to sing it. So therefore, when I'm learning something, I sing it every day. Every single day I sing it until it becomes part of me. And after a while, you don't have to think about, well, what comes next. You hear a phrase and you know automatically what you're going to say because you know what you have said previously, you know the story, you know the context. It just becomes part of you. Of course, it takes a long time, I must say. You just can't do this in a matter of weeks. But I wouldn't learn a role in a month or 2 months. I wouldn't do it because you don't do yourself justice and you don't do the role justice. It takes much more time. It's a very simple technique, I must say. The first thing you do is you take a deep breath. Then you sing with your breath. It's all breath. That's all there is to it. And then you sing on a vowel or whatever you're doing, and whether you want to make it soft or loud, it's all has to do with your breathing, your breath control. That is the most important thing. And I don't listen to myself. Never. That's something you shouldn't do. It's how it feels. Because if you start listening to yourself, it's bad. Because when you're singing a song, for instance, you've got to keep in mind what you're singing about, your words constantly, because you've got to get a message over. And if you start thinking about, well, am I singing this right or am I singing it wrong? You get too many things on your mind and something's got to give. I always go by the way it feels. I never listen to myself. Well, it really wasn't the songs of Helen Morgan, but we, Alec Templeton and I, did a little skit together for the AGMA dinner last year. I mean, they asked me if I would do something different, and I love to do popular music. I'm crazy about it. So Alec and I did a thing together, and we did some Rodgers and Hart, really. Yes, I did sit upon a piano. I'm very frustrated. I love to do popular music. And Ella Fitzgerald's the greatest. She and Frank Sinatra, I think, are the greatest. Just the greatest. Anybody that sings can learn a great lesson just by listening to them. In their delivery, in their pronunciation, in the way they sing. Oh, please don't get me started. Well, in opera, you assume the character that you're playing, and that's it. And you carry this throughout the whole opera. In concert, each song you sing assumes a different character. You're telling a different story. You're telling it differently. It may be a very happy story. It may be a sad story. It may be a very sweet love story. Or it may be an aria that's very dramatic. So everything you sing, you are a different person. I think it takes more out of you to give a concert because you are more people. And there you are all by yourself, you see. And it's up to you. And these people came to hear you and you alone. And I think it's a great responsibility to give a recital by yourself. But I love doing it. Well, thanks to my management, they have been more than cooperative. I am never out on the road any more than 2.5, 3 at the most weeks at a time. Then I will be home for 2 weeks. During the holidays, I'm always home. Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. I'm always home with my family. I don't get too much of a chance to do any cooking at all, but every once in a while I do. When I do, I get out that old gourmet cookbook and I go to town. Well, I do make very good pastry, I must say that. My husband thinks so anyway. I love to make bread. Make very good bread. Not many people do it. Oh, but the smell of baking bread. Please don't get me started. Well, my son Robbie is 11 and a half now, and he's at the age, I think, where he knows just about what I'm doing is, really something. I'm sure he thought that up till this time everybody's mommy sang. I think Kathleen thinks everybody's mommy must sing, you see. And recently, I was vocalizing at home, and Kathy was looking at me very deeply, and when I got through, she says, "Gee, Mom, that's a lot of hard work." And I thought, well, thank God. This is not for nothing, But Kathleen just takes it as a matter of fact. I'm sure she thinks that everybody's mommy sings, and that's that. But Robbie, I think, did you see that picture of him at the recording session? Isn't that wonderful? Here I am listening to the record, watching my score, and he's listening in back with the earphones on, hearing it in stereophonic sound, and he's looking at a comic book. He's just so engrossed in this comic book, it's not even funny. I think it's a wonderful picture. But he made a statement one time after I had done a radio show that we had done it in Carnegie Hall, as a matter of fact, and when we came out, he said to me, very quietly, he said, "Mom, I'm the only one there that could say you're my mother." And I thought that was very sweet. They called me to do the, what was it, the Misa Solemnis. And I said to Walter, I'm sorry, I'm going to have a baby. So he told Papa, and Papa says, she can't, it's impossible. So the performance was February something, and it was only about a matter of days before Kathleen was born. Kathleen was born February 20th. Because I remember I sat there and I sang the whole thing, you know, I followed the whole performance. My husband said, I hope you're getting paid for this. You're working so hard. No, but really, he's a tremendous help. And he's got a wonderful sense of humor, which to me is the most important thing. If you don't have a sense of humor, you miss a great deal.